So I was minding my own business, going through my day, doing everything that I usually do. Super tired. And I ran across the Twitter sphere, just scrolling through. I see mindless, pointless shit all the time, Just random things. And all of a sudden, I ran across the trending topic of Harry Styles. It happens pretty often. It's not like that's new information. He's a pretty popular dude, right? So I clicked on it just because I know that there's a movie coming out with him and Florence Pugh, and I know that his girlfriend, Olivia Wilde, which, baby girl, directed it and blah, 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 this and that. And I'm like, all right, let's see what's up. And I come across this. Rolling Stone UK puts out a statement, or a cover story about how Harry Styles is now the most wanted man alive. The world's most wanted man. And that doesn't necessarily set me off in any kind of way. The dude's pretty popular. His rise to fame from the One Direction stardom, from the moment that he stepped foot with his confidence and his bravado, wowing Simon Cowell, and Nicole Scherzinger, putting together the team that would one day shock the world and bring happiness and smiles to every tween girl all over the world. One Direction, right? The dude's been doing pretty well, right? I have a podcast that I put together once a week, and in that, we've talked about Harry Styles to some degree. It's not a music podcast, but we've talked about him. And I've said, as a musician, myself as a musician, I don't necessarily think he's all that, but I do appreciate his appreciation for some great music. I do appreciate his affinity towards trying to put together some great sounding songs. And he's pretty catchy. It's pretty poppy. I'm not anti-pop music. I think pop music is pretty fantastic if done right? And so far, I don't think that he's put out a flop. I don't think that any of his albums are, oh my God, out of this world amazing. But I also don't think that he's lackluster in the slightest, right? I do think that he deserves his accolades, and I do think he deserves to be where he is. But where it really set me off, and look, I'm drinking tequila straight today just because it's such a crazy day, and I'm over here and all over the place, right? Rolling Stone has the audacity of putting on the cover Harry Styles, the new king of pop. And that is where I get really bothered. Really bothered. Because for me, I was trying to do such a great job of just giving the man his flowers. He's done a good job. None of his music's not absolutely horrible. He's in the pop sphere. He's the new face of androgyny, and people are eating it up in today's political climate. And I even said that it comes off as pretty genuine, right? I'm not gonna give him the Prince accolade at that because he can't touch Prince's talent, but I understand, and he's bold, and he's confident about it. It comes off as genuine. I'm not necessarily mad at that. I understand why people really like it. But then comes the direct comparison. Because the moment that you put together King of Pop and a name that's not Michael Jackson, you better be ready. You better be ready for some serious judgment. For good reason, right? It's not that people are anti-Harry. I'm not anti-Harry. It's fine. I like I said, some of his songs in this past album, they're pretty decent songs. I fucks with them. But whenever you say something like the king of pop, when you're here flowing about your business and you're thinking of nostalgia and the greatness that was Michael Jackson, and then here comes this definitely clickbait headline cover, and you expect the world not to immediately have a gut reaction? Now, let's be sensible about this. One, I don't think that he's the new king of pop. In the slightest. And I'm going to explain why in just a little bit, okay? But before I get there, let's be a little sensible, right? What other male star, individual male star in the pop sphere has the gravitas that Harry Styles does on culture, on pop culture, on young people, on Gen Z or whatever it is, right? On that front, I can't think of anybody other than Harry Styles. I really can't. Maybe Bruno Mars, maybe, right? I can't think of, between them two, I can't necessarily think about a male pop star that is grabbing the cultural attention of the world, right? And even then, I think Bruno Mars has a better case for King of Pop than Harry Styles. Now, is Harry one of the most popular artists currently? Yes. Is Harry a solo pop star that's making waves, making history, catching worldwide attention? Yes. Are his tours unstoppable at world tours all over just completely killing it? Yes. Is his music digested all over the world? Yes. All of those things I can't deny. And nor would I even try to. I think he's deserved that, right? But the title of King of Pop comes with a very, very, very different connotation, right? And it's not lost on me how the title King of Pop to everybody from millennial onward, or I guess backward, however you want to phrase that, sees the King of Pop with a Michael Jackson lens, right? In any generation after millennials, I can see how the King of Pop doesn't have the same connotation or the same pull, the same nostalgia, the same history as we do. I can totally see it. So the redefinition of that phrase is not lost on me. I can totally understand why a Harry Styles fan might say, well, of course he's the new King of Pop. Duh. Of course. Why wouldn't he be? Nobody's killing him right now. Although y'all are doing my boy Bruno Mars a serious injustice. But either way, I can totally see why they say that, right? But then you put it into some historical context. Michael Jackson has been doing music since he was 5 years old. Part of an already legendary group. The expectations that Michael Jackson had after the Jackson 5 were so astronomically high that not only was he most likely to be unsuccessful and to fall apart, but in order for him to really shine, he would have had to blow that shit out of the water. And Off the Wall is by far probably the greatest debut album of all time, period, by any pop star, no question. You can't touch it. And then to follow that up with Thriller, like, y'all just don't understand. Even if y'all wanted to go with sales, even if y'all wanted to go and say, well, Harry Styles is outselling. No, he ain't. Thriller has sold so many records. He ain't touching that. Even on an impact level, Harry Styles' first album, Can't Touch Off the Wall's debut. I'm not talking about whether you like Off the Wall more than Harry Styles' first album. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the cultural impact. When Off the Wall showed up, it showed up. Everybody was fucking with Off the Wall. Everybody. Harry Styles' first album did his job with his fans. Still was able to create a world tour. Not saying that it didn't have an impact, but it did not have the cultural value that Off the Wall did. And then to top it off, the follow-up to Harry Styles' first album, which I'm blanking out on right now because I'm not a huge stan, right? It did some numbers, right? Watermelon Sugar was on there, Adore You was on there, right? Some pop hits. It's cool. Like he's doing his thing, and they're good songs. They're catchy. He started winning me over at that point, right? But to compare it with the sophomore album known as Thriller, yo, that is an unmatchable feat. You can't possibly compete with Thriller. Thriller was everywhere. Not to mention that the coming of age, like the perfect timing that was like MTV and the music video for songs at that point, and how Michael Jackson took his showmanship and his music to a whole other level. The theatrics that came behind it, the dancing that came behind it. Harry Styles ain't touching that. Harry Styles ain't touching that. Even on the androgyny point, he still ain't touching Prince. Prince did the androgyny arguably better than Harry did. Little Richard did that shit before even Prince did it. And even Little Richard was killing that shit. Elton John was doing some androgynous shit and was wild with it. Wild with it. So it's not like even he's pushing like some serious boundaries there. He's not. He's not. Props to him, but he's not. Michael Jackson wasn't the best musician in the slightest. But Michael Jackson's voice was untouchable. And although Harry sounds great, he's been trained well, and he's got some good tunes, Harry Styles' voice compared to Michael Jackson's voice, yo, you are bugging if you even compare the two. It's just not even a competition. It's not even close. You can't compare it. It's not it. Now, what are the downsides to Michael? After Bad, the albums kind of became a little, he couldn't keep up with the times, right? Not like how a Beyonce is keeping up with the times, not like how a Jay-Z in the hip-hop sphere is keeping up with the times, not even with, you know what I mean? There's these legacy acts that I've talked about before that are doing some great shit that are keeping up with the times. They're pushing culture forward. Michael Jackson couldn't necessarily do that. Prince couldn't necessarily do that. Stevie Wonder couldn't necessarily do that, right? I get it. That's a very interesting critique. But we don't know yet if Harry Styles is capable of doing that, because Harry Styles is of the time currently. So there's no possible way that we can know if he even qualifies in that metric until 20, 30 years from now, if Harry Styles is still relevant. Maybe then we can have a different conversation. But even then, as of now, Harry has to do so much more currently to be able to be crowned something like the king of pop and have it mean the same thing that it used to mean back then. If we want to change the definition of king of pop to whatever Michael Jackson wasn't, just the most popular male pop singer at the moment, then sure, he's the king of pop. But if you want to not change the definition and use the definition that Michael Jackson gave that term, the icon, the iconography of that statement, then he ain't touching it. He's not even close. He's not even close. Michael Jackson couldn't go anywhere in this world. Anywhere. And I'm not saying that Harry Styles is not popular. He's very, very, very popular. He probably shut shit down. You know what I mean? He would probably shut shit down. No question. Right? Even if you compare him to other ex-boy bands, right? Justin Timberlake. You have still yet to convince me that Harry's discography is better than Justin's. And Justin doesn't have the best discography either. But you're still not going to sit here and because you're going to sit here and tell me that Future Sex Love Sounds did not rock the fucking planet? It did, right? And there's been other male singers, male pop stars that have dominated. Justin Bieber came and went, dominated, right? At one point, he was the biggest shit around. If you would have labeled him the king of pop just because of his popularity, shit, I'd have understood. And even then, I'd go towards Bruno Mars so much more than a Harry Styles. Because Bruno Mars is actually a musician. Bruno Mars probably encapsulates the best of both worlds when it comes to Michael and Prince. And even then, Bruno Mars can't sing like Michael Jackson. It's just not even a question. Now, let me concede another point. There is a very real reality that we will never have somebody as close to Michael Jackson ever again, because everything lined up so perfectly. We did not have streaming services. We did not have all the outlets that we have today to consume music, to be able to digest everything that we're digesting. Fair. It might be impossible for any artist, male or female, to be able to really get to the level that Michael Jackson had and have the cultural grasp on Michael. I can concede to that. So I am more than willing to make some addendums to the definition. But I currently still see nobody that is really matching up to that definition. So, that being said, that's why this article is clickbait. It is. It is. Because you can't, in good conscience, put these two artists together. It's blasphemous. It's not okay. It's just not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And again, I fully understand that Gen Z's relationship or nostalgia towards Michael Jackson may be completely different. Shit, in 5 to 10 years, the next generation might not even fuck with anything that has to do with Michael Jackson. Not at all. In the same way that maybe my generation doesn't necessarily fuck with Sinatra like that. Or my generation doesn't necessarily fuck with Otis Redding like that. Or whatever, right? Luther Vandross, whatever the last generation's big male figures were, right? I understand it. But you're not going to be able to touch it. It's just impossible. You're not going to be able to touch it. Not with the discography that he has. He's got great popularity and he deserves all the accolades that he's probably going to get. But he cannot touch anything that Michael Jackson's done musically so far. I'm of the thought that Off the Wall is better than Thriller. And none of Harry Styles' albums still comes close to as good as what Off the Wall was. That's just a fact. Now, there goes my rant. Let's see what some of this article says so that we can have a better understanding, so that we can see if they talk about the King of Pop shit or if it's just there to get us to go click on them and get some more traction towards their page, right? World's Most Wanted Man. On a Friday night in New York, Harry Styles puts on a show. It wasn't just any show. It was the first time he performed his third and soon-to-be biggest album, Harry's House. Okay? Apparently it's his biggest album. I didn't know that. The crowd that May night covered Long Island's UBS Arena in feathers and glitter and tears, ritualistic skin shedding of sorts when Style comes to town. Referencing his fashion choices, yeah. Fans noticed something different about the encore. Styles didn't end with his usual closer, a Kiwi. Instead, he opted to finish the night with a second performance of his new single, As It Was, a dance through the tears, pandemic reflection on isolation and change, which it wasn't even the best pandemic song, to be honest. I left him a bit shaken. We came off stage, and I went to my dressing room. I wanted to sit by myself, blah, 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 blah. 2 months later, he tells me 2 months later, after One Direction, I didn't expect to ever experience anything new. I kind of felt like, all right, I've seen how crazy it can get, and I think there was something about it where I was not terrified, but just needed a minute because I wasn't sure what it was. Just that energy felt insane. I can understandable after a boy band that does what One Direction does. It's very smart to come to terms with the reality that you may not live up to that as a solo act, right? At 28, he's 28. New level of stardom, blah 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 blah, and he's gonna be famous for quite some time. Like this, he's not going away anytime soon because he's actually got some pretty good talent to back it up. Before headlining his set at Coachella in April, he headlined Coachella. Cool. Along the way, I heard him everywhere, even when I wasn't trying. As it was, played in every cab. Watermelon Sugar's soundtrack breakfast. Golden lurked quietly in London drugstore. Late night talking blasted at the Brooklyn bar. Leading him one man to proclaim, I like Harry Styles. I can admit it. Like it was a radical act of self-acceptance. I am of the same place. I have a good friend of mine that really loves Harry Styles, and she was trying her best to convince me that he was the second coming. And I just wasn't buying it. I'm still not buying it. But since then, I've come to, again, a kind of like a radical self-acceptance of like, okay, he's not bad. I'm not necessarily like I'm not going to go out of my way to bash him that much because he's actually, pretty decent, And while there may be everywhere in 2022, okay, see, they're still not getting to anything that has any substance. As the pandemic ended up in Los Angeles, moved in with 3 friends. Wonder who those friends were. He says until he decided to use his downtime productively in program writing new material. Rick Rubin's Malibu studio, Shangri-La, was available. Longtime producers and co-writers Kid Harpoon and Tyler Johnson. So we didn't really know what we were going to do. If they recorded it, if Rick Rubin produced the album, that's pretty impressive because Rick Rubin's a fucking monster. Rick Rubin is probably the Michael Jackson of producing. Maybe next to Quincy Jones. But shit. Oh, and that's another point. Thriller, on an audio level, on an engineering level, pushed the boundaries of what pop music can really be. All Harry Styles has done is find out where his influences lie and do really good reference points for them, which is not a bad thing. This last album has a ton of reference points, maybe like Talking Heads and like all these kind of like old independent artists, and in a good way. But shit, Thriller changed the fucking game. Harry Styles' album is not changing the game right now. He credits a stream of roommates as it was definitely the highest volume of men that I would guess something about it. And even then, as it was, it's not all that. It wasn't the best pandemic song. So it seems like this article is just trying to humanize Harry and talk about how Harry's still kind of the one of the bunch, right? A regular guy, seemingly surprised by fame and taking it all as best as he can with as much humility as possible, which props to him because it's probably very easy to get a big head. And like I said, I've said this before with some of his takes and his fashion and things like that. He does come off as super genuine. He comes off as a person that really, really, really is genuine, is genuine about what he says, how he says it, the music is writing. It feels like it does come from a real place. So I don't want to accuse him of being callous or of being big-headed or of being diva or anything like that. He does come off as super genuine. I think even, and I'll go as far as to say that I think even Harry will agree that he's not the new king of pop, that he's not touching Michael. I think Rolling Stone, UK, whoever wrote that headline, is the one that fucked up.